Kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chhour. How are you, mate? Can't hear you,
Kia ora,
Chhour.
Pat. I'm having
there we go.
few internet issues today.
Yeah. Sorry, you caught me.
Yeah,
you caught me
so
mid,
I'm having a few technical issues here tonight, I think.
Oh, that's no good.
I'm getting a lot of buffering, and if you're not hearing me properly either...
Hearing you now. Can you hear me?
It's concerning. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
I can hear you.
Okay.
That's all good.
Let's press on then and hope that it doesn't get shitty. Don't tell me microphone fund. Fuck you.
Chewy, we're 1 minute into the new week and you've told our lovely audience to fuck them already. That's not okay. We've talked about this.
It's a very sensitive time.
But we've talked about this. Wait till the end of the week to give you real feelings about the people watching and listening. Not at the start of the week where they won't come back. Sheesh.
No, I'm front loading it like the government front loads all their bullshit. I'll forget about it by the end of the week.
Hello team. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another show. We've got a very, very full show tonight. Being really honest with you, I'm not that much of a fan of sort of the culture war topics, but this conversation around the Algerian boxer to me is indicative of, and look, I know whoever's watching right now on Twitter from the right is going to go, oh, you guys, but to me it encapsulates everything that's revolting about the right. Like it really does. Like basically, and I put up one tweet this week about this, which was, I wonder if the boxer, how much they're going to sue J.K. Rowling for. That was all I put up, right? And since then, it's just been a firestorm on my Twitter feed. And I've gone and taken a whole bunch of my tweets that I replied to people with, and I've got them all bookmarked, because basically there's no way around it unless you think every single human that's ever known this person is lying, and every boxing organization other than the one Russian one that's now banned is lying. Unless you think that, then you have to have flipped your opinion completely on this. Because Chewy, we used to get told, and I'm already burning off some of my stuff, we got told, right, that when the doctor pulls you out and slaps your bum and says, Mr. and Mrs. such and such, you've got a girl, then that's what you are. Well, that's what this doctor did for this athlete, and now everyone's telling us it's a man. So in other words, you now accept that you don't have to be the sex you're assigned with at birth. Because if she was assigned with female, girl, you're all calling, so you're actually doing the opposite of what you're saying other people can't do. It's just been a fascinating watch from the sidelines, Chewy.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I'm also going to acknowledge our trans friends in the trans community have been putting up with an absolute tidal wave of some of the worst people on the internet that feel somehow that they're experts in biology. And this is the perfect opportunity to get up on whatever rickety fucking structure they've erected for their argument, and are just trying to hold court with other people who are just as terrible. They're all somehow now experts in boxing, biology, everything. And they're just the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Cheered on by someone who has an enormous following. J.K.
Several
Rowling.
people. Elon Musk has got in there as well. They've all got in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just shows, like, I mean, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Most ordinary people don't give a shit. They just want to get through their day without being horrible to someone, or to have someone be horrible to them. People like J.K. Rowling, people like Elon don't give a fuck. They'll burn everything down. There's a reason that Elon's kids don't talk to him. It's because he's a cunt.
To be fair, some of his kids. One of his kids. Some of his kids. No,
but the ones that can talk don't want to talk to him. You know? He's a terrible, shitty person. And the whole thing is, like, you've got other boxers that have fought this Algerian woman who have won or lost. You know,
she's lost like 9 matches out of 52.
It's this whole argument that you know, she's a man, so that's why she won this fight. Well, then why'd she lose all the other ones?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You know,
it's just ridiculous.
And
it's ridiculous.
And the argument that comes out of that is that there's no possible way a woman could best a man ever, which is foolish. There are other boxers that have fought her and said, "Yeah, cool. You know, I beat her and I won."
Like the last Olympics, for example, when she got knocked out before the medal round.
Yeah. The other aspect of this is that she comes from a country where being trans is illegal.
Yeah.
So these people have put her in very real danger when she goes home.
Yeah.
Like it's disgusting.
It does seem that Algeria is behind her. Well, look, let's get onto that in a bit. Let's not burn everything straight away. Kiwi Bird wants to add $2 to your leftist audio there. Thanks for the super chat there, Kiwi Bird. Appreciate
More
that.
left channel. Got it.
Because look, let's just set the show up and then we'll get going because we've got a lot to do with Kieran McAnulty tonight on his appearance on Q&A, which was great. I wonder if it was a bit easier for him because there was no Jack Tame. It was Katie Bradford. Bradford? Yeah, that's right. But you know, point all the way through. Also, we want to have a look at Karen Chhour, still in the headlines. Actually, the news item from last night, I haven't seen tonight, sorry, was like a 3.5 or 3 minute bit during the National Party conference. 30 seconds of that story was around the National Party conference. The next 2.5 minutes was Karen Chhour. So it's still going on. It's still creating headlines. I do want to show you some stuff tonight that echoes that idea. If we're going to get rid of a toxic workplace in Parliament buildings, which we all think there should be, ACT has got some responsibility there. We're going to look at that tonight based on some accusations made towards ACT around the election that I think was mentioned in our chat last week. Also, I got a bit of a shorty for you as well. Donald Trump. There is a video of Pete Davidson has re-emerged in the last couple of days from way back in the day when he was explaining when Donald Trump came to Saturday Night Live how he couldn't read. So I'm going to play that video for you, showing you how one accusation is. But then also there was research that was done previously showing the standard of language that each of the 15 presidents had used, like where they would fit in school. And I won't give away the punchline yet, but yeah, Trump didn't come out well on that either. It's all kind of old news, but it's starting to resurface for obvious reasons. Something else that's really important for us to tell you about tonight is we're doing a 10-day merch drop. And this month's August merch, we are supporting Rainbow Story Time. Okay? We are going to give 25% of the profits of Rainbow Story, of the Buffer merchandise to their fund on Give a Little to try and help what they need to fight Brian Tamaki. And to celebrate the Rainbow Story Time, Chewy, we have, of course, got Rainbow Buffer gear. So we've got light. You right?
Yep.
Okay. We've got hoodies and T-shirts. We've got light pink, and we've got a color called Bluestone. Bluestone with the rainbow buffer across the front. So that is on the website, bhnshop.nz. Of course, the other regular sort of BHN gear is there as well. And if you're interested in supporting them, supporting us, you can head to the shop for the next 10 days. We're going to do a drop. And we've got BHN hoodies, BHN T-shirts. We've got personalised BHN hoodies if you want to have your name on the back of them. It does cost a little bit more because it costs us more to get them printed. And then we'll shut it all down again. So as we always say, this is the only time you will ever be able to get these particular rainbow buffer T-shirts and hoodies. That's what we do. We do them once and then they never come back again. So bhnshop.nz if you want to participate in that. Right, Chewy, Sir Chewy. Sir Chews a lot. I like I like ginger butts and I do not lie. Sir Ginger Lot. Something. I don't know. I'm just riffing now. So we've got kind of three pretty big stories and a little short one. I think we might start with Kieran McAnulty because actually of the news, he's New Zealand news, and it's good if we can get perhaps all of his story out there without having to cut any of it short. So maybe we'll start with that, Chhour, if you're all right with that. If your partner's okay with that as well. If you guys are all right, we might start with that one. You okay with that?
Well, I'll tell you what was so important to interrupt this live recording. My dog has had a leaky bumhole for the past couple of days, and now fantastic. I can update. I can update you, Pat, and I can update all of our chat.
Yes,
we've got an improvement to semi-soft stool.
Oh, good, very good.
The little dog.
Cool. I just took Kieran down. I just took Kieran down though because I thought we can't now clip this as a short with you talking about that at the start of the clip we're about to talk about with Kieran McAnulty. Can we?
Okay. Wouldn't Reset. Claire gives her apologies.
There we go.
Reset.
All right, let's start off with Kieran McAnulty on Q&A. It was a really good conversation. I've actually got several clips to play, but most of them are only 60 to 90 seconds, so we'll get through it, He was talking to Katie Bradford, and it's a really interesting conversation because Katie, and don't hear me as saying that she was biased because it's not that at all, but she kept asking questions along the lines of, did Labour not do enough? Did Labour not check in enough? Did you guys get it wrong? There was a lot of those questions in this conversation, and they're valid, but I guess maybe I was just missing Jack Tame a little bit, if I'm honest. No disrespect intended, but there was a lot of, blame Labour. Not officially, but kind of asking the question, should we be blaming Labour? So let's have a look at the start of the conversation. It's talking around local governments, talking around water in particular. One of the big points in this conversation that Kieran pushes is what the government has to be responsible for since cancelling things like the Affordable Water Care Act and that kind of stuff, and what it's meaning today. Let's have a look.
There have been warnings for some time about those rates rises. Could Labour have done more to stop those?
Well, let's not forget the affordable water reforms was an attempt to address the massive issue facing councils and households around rates. And so too was the review into the future of local government that came up with some recommendations around additional revenue streams for councils, because at the moment, pretty much rates is their only option. And it's very clear to me that over the next few years, rates is going to be the biggest issue facing households. Mm-hmm. The rating system itself is utterly unsustainable. We need to sort it out. Well,
National talks about new ways of funding and financing local government. Could Labour have moved faster? Should you have looked at some of those options?
It's just a lot of this. What did you guys do wrong? Should you have done better? And Kieran, as you would, is very good here to point the blame to, well, we did solve some of these problems and we did have things in place to solve these problems, but old Baldylocks decided to can them all, to shit can them.
You have moved faster on those local government reforms, all three waters?
Well, there were recommendations that came out of the review that the local government sector have since reported back to the government, the new government, about it. They've dismissed it out of hand. So that's direct feedback from the sector coming from that review as to how things could change to make it easier for councils and easier for households. And the minister dismissed them out of sight, called them woke nonsense. And of course, let's not forget they did reverse the affordable...
That whole woke nonsense, Chhour, about solving the problem. Solving the problem's woke these days if you solve it from the left, apparently.
Dismissed them out of sight, called them woke nonsense. And of course, let's not forget they did reverse the affordable water reforms, which would have saved ratepayers thousands of dollars a year.
Bingo.
And we were told that that was rubbish, but now already, only after the one round after reversing those water reforms, people are facing increases in rates in the thousands.
But some of that did come about under Labour. Did you not move fast enough? I guess you wasted it. You spent $1 billion.
Like again with the same thing. 3 times. Was it up to you guys? Now I want to highlight this because I haven't heard or thought of this before, but Kieran has the perfect answer for you guys wasting $1 billion on water care. And he points out very quickly, when did that money become wasteful? You have a listen to this.
About under Labour, did you not move fast enough? I guess you wasted it. You spent $1 billion on 3 water reforms. Did we see a single pipe built as a result of that? You know, you had 6 years to do something.
I think we've got to be careful about saying we wasted $1 billion. At what point was that wasted? Mm-hmm. Because up to the election, things were set up. The Auckland Northland entity was about to go this year. The other entities were lining up. That money was spent to set that up. The only point at which that money was wasted was when this government decided to scrap the reforms entirely and go back to the status quo. Because all that work over many, many years, and we're talking about fundamental structural changes here, all that work and all that investment gone because of their decision. So I'm sorry, I just don't accept that we wasted that money because that's ultimately on the government.
That is such a good answer. Like, it's as if you're building a house, Chewy, and you get the plans drawn up. In fact, I did this before I separated from my then wife. Then we drew plans up and we spent, $10, $15, $20,000 on plans. And then we separated, and that felt like a real waste. Wouldn't have been if we had kept on building the house, but because we had those plans drawn up and then we had to, obviously stop everything, it's a waste. But it's not a waste until, for whatever reason, it gets stopped. So they didn't waste $1 billion. You could actively say National wasted $1 billion by not taking up the plans the last guys did and thinking they could do it in a better way. But it's a very, very clear and good line being pushed by Kieran there.
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to be just hammered home, that there is a cost to planning and there is a cost to not planning.
Yep.
And the costs to not planning are always going to be higher because you're going to be spending money fixing all the shit you didn't think of in the planning phase. I think any engineer out there, anybody that builds something will agree with me there. Anybody that's managed a team and tried to produce something, you plan. And yes, in that stage, there is money being spent for no product, because the product comes at the end of the process. And so when this government has come in and just decided to just hit delete on so much work, that's when you go, okay, that's when it was wasted. You haven't done anything of that. And then you've pivoted and you've gone straight into the same thing. We've got consultants now trying to work out whether we're doing a huge long tunnel under Wellington.
Yeah.
So they, by their own thing, they are wasting money because not a single inch of tunnel has been delivered at this point.
Yeah.
It is remarkable.
Yeah. How
this stuff just turns around. And yes, I'm annoyed at that interviewer for doing essentially the same question 3 times.
Yeah,
however, it wasn't wasted because it delivered that fantastic answer.
Yeah, and also, I guess, let's relate it to myself. I'm getting a bathroom put in downstairs in my house. I forked over 10 grand or something the other day for the consents and the plans and all that kind of stuff. Not one pipe has been laid, Chewy.
Yeah, sounds like
that money's gone out of my bank.
You could have saved that money, just dug a hole.
Yeah. All right. So Kieran goes on to talk about how local government is not fit for purpose and the cost of water. There's quite a few conversations around water. Remember, we told you all this, baby birds. I know that the guys watching now pretty much will be on board, but we told you what was going to happen. We showed you how your rates would be increasing if we didn't push through with 3 waters. And, enough of you believe the racist rhetoric of, Maori water, what are we going to do? That you're doing is you're now paying for your decisions. And unfortunately, many of us who are supportive of that idea are paying for your decisions as well.
As many other factors. In my view, it's very clear that local government is no longer fit for purpose, that the structure isn't set right, but also that the rating system is unsustainable. Now, if you look at water, it's gone back to the councils now, and even if they pursue what the new government is doing, it's not going to give councils the savings that they need. And by dismissing completely every single one of the recommendations that came from that review and the feedback from local government, the only option that they have is rates. And now, I've been travelling the country quietly talking to councils, just getting some feedback in a local area. But the one thing that stands out to me, Katie, was the bloke that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago who looked me in the eye and said, I've just had to sell my home, my family home, because we can no longer afford the rates. And, if the minister thinks that that's an isolated incident, he's kidding himself, because the more I travel around, the more I'm hearing instances like this. I was in South Wairarapa yesterday, talking to local businesses who are facing increases of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year. They've got some concerns around council processes, but they absolutely accept at the same time that even if those processes were sorted, the increases would still be happening. 50%.
Just want to say it again. If you are a voter and you voted for the National Act New Zealand First taniwha, then this is what you voted for. This is what happens when you rip $14 billion of tax cuts and $3 billion of landlord rebates out of the pot of money. This is what happens. It has to be found elsewhere, and you are responsible for this. You, if you voted that way, are part of the reason that caused this. Now, for many people, it'll be like, oh, well, I can afford it. I'm a boomer. I've got 7 properties. It's not a big deal. For others, and I'm going to be careful because we don't typically accept anecdotal evidence from the other side. Kieran's just mentioned an anecdotal story. He does go on to talk about a wider feel for it. But this is contributing to people finding it tougher under this government, not easier. Got anything you want to say before we keep going, Chhour?
No. Pull the trigger on it.
All right.
Percent of the rates increases for many councils is for water, and around total expenditure for councils is around 83%. And the government is doing nothing about it. So,
the government would say they are looking at new funding and financing options. You've talked there about the rating system being unsustainable as it is. What do you need to do? What needs to change?
Yeah.
Well, there needs to be a clear commitment to local government from any central government moving forward that they won't impose more jobs onto local councils without the funding to back that up. You hear local councils talking about unfunded mandates, and they're absolutely right. Over successive governments, they've been asked to do more and more and more, but the only way in which they can pay for those is through rates. But at the same time, it needs to absolutely be overhauled, because if we don't give councils more tools, the only option they have is rates. And we can look at other ways of the PPPs and all the stuff that the government is signalling at. But at the end of the day, the core responsibility of councils is costing them a lot of money, and the only option they've got is to increase rates. So while we might find other funding alternatives for big infrastructure projects, the core functions of councils is going to increase.
There you go. Cheers, Chhour. You're jumping. I've had a chat about this already.
Yeah, I think he's right. When you look at how rates affect local government, right? So I think wherever you guys are, wherever the chat lives around the country, you'll be aware that there is a local ratepayers group. And I challenge you to try and join that group and go to one of their meetings and look around the room who's part of that ratepayers group. Now, these guys want less rates. Every single ratepayers group wants less rates, and they're an organised block of voters. So local body politicians will listen to them. They will go to their meetings. They will talk to them before they run for office and that sort of thing. So these guys are setting the tone for the place that you live in. Now, we want to raise rates so we can redo the kids' playgrounds. No, don't want to do it. We want to get ahead of some preemptive maintenance on the city's pipes. No, kick that can down the road. And this is what's been going on for decades. And this is why so many towns and cities around the country are finding all of this deferred maintenance, the thing that's been put off because the ratepayers groups won't like it. It's all coming paid now. And this is why there's so many places out there, so many councils were looking at the Three Waters changes and going, oh, thank fuck, here is the solution. But then many councillors in those councils were like, it's Māori taking all the water, and I don't like it. And Julian Batchelor's got some good ideas. And they fucked it because those same ratepayers group thought the same thing. I talk around people that I know, and it's cities' pipes need doing. It's great to have kids' playgrounds. There was a part of the rates for council flats and that sort of thing, of putting the rent up for people that live in council flats. Now, I ticked that box that said, fucking hell no. Those people can't afford rates increases, but the rates go up. The rates go up because it is the only funding model that they have. But it affects everything. The fact that it's rates and nobody wants to be realistic about rates going up.
And they're the same people, of course, that get all up in arms when a government does something that they go, oh, I don't want to put that. We don't want to put that visa bill on our grandchildren. Why are we putting those costs on our grandkids? We don't want to leave those costs to our grandkids, which is exactly what they're doing with what you've just
the
describe,
same generation that bought their house for 15 grand
Yeah.
and made millions out of it, the same generation that got free university education, the same generation that could stick out their hand to the government and quite happily take, and now they're in their twilight years and they're looking at their super and stuff like that, and they're going, oh, I don't want to pay any more rates. Fuck this city and everybody that lives in it apart from me.
We'll go on. I've just written down here what the government is currently doing is they're blaming Labor and they're blaming councils for what's happening with the water. And the question just gets asked, what needs to happen?
So when I was minister and the review came back, I said to local government New Zealand, right, well, here's the recommendations. I want to hear from you guys as to what it is that you support. I'm not interested in going down another divisive argument. I want to know what the sector thinks about these recommendations. And my promise to them was that if they can come back and talk amongst themselves and demonstrate broad support for a certain number of recommendations, my promise was I'd take it to Cabinet. Now, that was the opportunity to change this, and it's been dismissed. And it's been dismissed in an arrogant way. It was called woke nonsense. You know, and so it's all well and good for
that whole kind, putting a plan together on how we're going to pay for this bloody woke nonsense, which actually fits in with, remember, I've played this for what Karen Plunkett said to me about what does it mean to be woke. It means anything I disagree with. Truer words could not actually be spoken.
The minister to stand up in Parliament, surrounded by his mates and be the big man, but I bet he won't look the guy that had to sell his home because he can't afford the rates, call him woke. And I bet he won't go to the businesses that are facing thousands of dollars of increase just in 1 year and say their concerns are nonsense. They have to front up. You know, let's not forget the Prime Minister said the solution to this issue is for council to stop doing dumb things, quote unquote. I mean, how arrogant, out of touch is that? The fact is councils have actually no choice. They've got one hand tied behind their back. 83% roughly of their expenses is roads and water. We had a plan in place, the government scrapped it, and now they're pointing the finger at councils and saying it's their fault.
Well, as one...
There you go. Next clip, Chhour. If there's nothing urgent, we'll just stream straight into the next one because we've got a couple more to go.
Yeah, I just want to highlight one other thing that a lot of councils acknowledge as a big problem and a big concern for them, but absolutely a sector of their voting base consider it woke nonsense, and that's climate change. That's looking at any town or city in New Zealand next to a coastline or a river.
Yeah.
You know, looking at their lower lying areas and that sort of thing, which are quite often business areas or low income areas.
Or where they've got their batches by the water. Yeah.
The councils know it's a problem. They do the surveys. But anytime they bring it up, climate change isn't real. Fucking dinosaurs can adapt. Yeah.
This is only a 45-second clip, so we'll play this one as well. Rates are still going to increase. And you know how we often talk about the right? The right will say forever and a day that government doesn't work, government shouldn't be trusted. When they get into government, they then pass policies that break government, and then they step back and they go, see, we told you government couldn't work. Well, it's kind of a theme of what they say here about how National broke the water system. I think it goes hand in hand with that idea.
But we mustn't kid ourselves at the same time. It's not going to solve the issue around rates. Rates will still increase as long as the government keeps putting it back on them. And I think that is actually a deliberate tactic. I think if you listen to the language of the minister and the finance minister and the prime minister, I think they know deep down they've stuffed up. I think they know by reversing water reforms, it's going to put the pressure on councils and ultimately households will face higher rates. And they're taking every opportunity to sheet that responsibility back to councils. But ultimately, when people open their rates bill and they see that their rates have gone up, they should be laying that blame at the feet of the government, not at their mayor.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you, Katie, at the next local government elections, there'll be good mayors and good councillors who lose their jobs as a part of the backlash from the rates when actually they had no choice.
Yes, well, actually, the one thing I'll disagree with Kieran on there is they did have a choice. I interviewed all but one or two of the candidates for mayor in Dunedin, and not one of them said, we are for three waters. So some of them do have a role to play in that. Many of the mayors and councillors refuse to get on board the three waters, the Affordable Care Act's bandwagon, and these are the penalties from it. Yes, it's a government initiative, but I don't think all councils and all councillors are squeaky clean in this. I'm not saying all of them are also dirty, but they're not all squeaky clean in this as well. It depends which one you're talking about. Chhour.
Yeah, you're exactly. I think all of them knew that was a topic that was thermonuclear.
Yeah.
Like there was so much. Like these guys, you know, you're running for office, and you look at social media, and we know that these groups are very, very loud on social media, and are in some cases really, really well organized. Like
Yep.
Groundswell, as an example.
Yep.
You know, and they can put a case that just doesn't reflect how people actually think. But if your candidates aren't standing up and going, hey, look, I believe in this and it's important and this is why, you know, if they avoid those tricky subjects, then who knows what the fuck you're voting for. I mean, one of the candidates here in Dunedin, if you look at his blurb, he's pro cycleways and on all of these good things. And then you dig a little bit deeper, and he doesn't believe in
and he doesn't believe in viruses. Not just for COVID. He doesn't believe in viruses at all.
The viruses as a whole. But you put the attractive stuff on your blurb in the booklet and hope that people vote for you. You know.
By the way, that interview is still on this YouTube page. If you want to go see it out, go look for DHN Dunedin. It's there. And at the end of the interview, he has a crack at me for bringing up all this conspiratorial stuff, and it's very clear I brought up none of it. It all just vomited out of him. So
So I mean, this is something while we're talking about local government stuff, and I guess national level government as well, is that if there's a button issue that's important to you, and I suggest that for most people, climate change should definitely be up there.
Yeah,
is that you don't let people wriggle out of answering the hard question of like, okay, so what are we doing about climate change? And if they go, oh, it's not happening, cool. So what do we do about you being wrong about it? You know, if we have to evacuate an entire suburb of the city, or the next tropical cyclone comes down and all the bridges go because of the slash and stuff, what are we doing about that? You know, what if you're wrong?
This conversation with Kieran was there was lots of information there. I'm not going to play one of the clips that I brought out. It was basically him just explaining how Labor didn't drop the ball, but I think he's done that all the way through. It's like, we had this plan for these increases and these guys got rid of it. Maybe I should actually, because I think this is where he talks about building houses. Maybe I'll play it, because it's pretty important to remind people about things like the number of houses that National are going to build versus what Labor did build, because we haven't had that yet, have we? No, we should play it. It's worthwhile playing, even if I have to drop something else. Labor didn't drop the ball as a heading of this clip.
I don't know how that could be the case when you look at the record number of houses that were built through Chhour and community housing providers over the last 6 years. Chhour put a press release out this week to say that there was 5,000 homes completed over the last 12 months. I note the government's trying to take credit for it, but they didn't pay for those. That's the last government's achievement. 13 homes a day it equates to. Now, you know, when...
Stop and think of that. The last government built 13 homes a day. 13 a day. That's freaking impressive. That's freaking impressive.
If we want to talk about a failure of the Labor government, I think one of those failures that Kieran should absolutely cop to here is not calling your wins often enough.
Not boasting enough.
You know, you can see the hangover from that now, when if you look up what Chhour is up to at the moment, it's apparently gone from a housing organisation to an organisation that just wants to sit on empty lots and do nothing. Yeah. There's one just down around the corner from me here in Dunedin. I see that there's several in Palmerston North and Tauranga on the East Coast. There's a bunch of land that got built, and now the government's like going, no, stop, we're not doing anything.
No, we'll keep going because he talks about housing here. This is an important clip to play.
Government's achievement. 13 homes a day it equates to. Now, you know, when the review came out into Chhour and the ministers were trying to put the boot in, they were talking about the debt. They weren't talking about the assets. And it's a crucial element.
And remember, we've done this. He doesn't mention it. The government is banging on about $10 billion worth of debt to Chhour. What they won't tell you is, though, that $10 billion got the ledger, you know, assets versus debt, an additional $25 billion of assets. So that $10 billion worth of debt is actually plus $15 billion. But they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that at all.
Put the boot in. They were talking about the debt. They weren't talking about the assets. And it's a crucial element of it. Yes, the debt's increased, but the value of the assets have also increased. We're also talking about people's homes here. You know, thousands of people, over 15,000 homes between community housing providers and Chhour were built over the last 6 years. Those are people that would otherwise be homeless. And if you compare that to what this government is doing, they've stopped Chhour building homes. They've put money into community housing providers, but 1,500 over 2 years, 750 a year compared to 5,000 just with Chhour last year. It's not good stuff.
But did you accept there was anything wrong with Chhour? Did you fail to keep an eye on them?
Again, are you sure? What could you have done more? It's not an invalid question, but just every single time it seems to be the only question.
Board need to go. You can't. I know there's the issue over the debt versus assets, but something has gone wrong there, right?
Well, I think it's.
She forgot to do the air quotes because what she's talking about is actually an issue of debt to assets. It's not an issue.
Rich for the National Party to say Chhour is a failure when they've built well over 14,000 homes, and the National Party went backwards in the 9 years they were in government. Look, at the end of the day, and I imagine that if they were honest, they'd say so themselves, the National Party doesn't believe it's the government's responsibility to build houses. We do. And if you're going to do that, you've got to fund it. We stand by the outcomes. Could there be efficiencies in Chhour? Absolutely. It was essentially a new agency. It was started from scratch in 2018. Of course there's going to be efficiencies, but look at the outcomes.
Well, did you not, that's my question, did you not look at where those efficiencies could be made, given the amount of taxpayer money we're talking about?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, when Megan
on.
Woods was Housing Minister, she was constantly looking at that. I think if they were to continue that process, then there would always be efficiencies to be found. You're talking about a massive build program over the whole country, at the same time supporting community housing providers. But you look at the trajectory now. This is exactly what they want us to be talking about, defending Chhour to distract from the fact that they have pulled money from the housing budget. $1.5 billion in the...
Yes.
Fuck, he's good, eh? I mean,
Yeah,
he's good. He's good.
Distract from the fact that they have pulled money from the housing budget. $1.5 billion in the last budget gone from housing. 400 million of that was for large-scale projects under Chhour. They're making a virtue of the fact that they've funded 1,500 over 2 years by scrapping the first home grant, which is only a small proportion of the momentum that we'd built over our time. That is bugger all. It's not going to make a dent. In fact, it's going to make things worse.
So I'm going to, before you jump in, Chhour, I'm going to play one more clip here because the last clip is not really that valid because I could just tell you what it is. But he also strongly, couldn't more strongly, almost, I think that methinks the lady doth protesteth too much about leadership. This is only 30 seconds just to give you a gist as to how strongly he did reject the idea.
Elephant in the room, you are much talked about as the next Labour leader. If Chris Hipkins was to stand down today, would you put your hat in the ring?
Well, first of all, I don't think he will. I think he's doing a good job. And I'll give you one brief example before I answer your question. Every single election under MMP, when a party's been voted out, they've shat the bed. They've argued amongst themselves, they've fought, they've leaked, they've done all that sort of stuff. We haven't done that, and that's entirely down to Chippy's leadership. So I expect him to be leader at the next election. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be putting my hand up. I'm not interested.
And she pushes and, and he just basically goes, look, I don't care. I'm not interested. So, if it is, methinks the lady does. We said that about Chloe, though, as well. I mean, we thought, would she be better as the sniper going around the outside? And I guess if he's being, I don't know what the underlying objective is for his career, but I accept that's completely an honest answer for today. In a year from now, maybe it's a different answer. So, Chewy, yeah, I'm glad I played that bit about housing at the end because it's probably the most important part. And Labor hasn't shat the bed. They're all still together. They're all still strong. Other things said in that conversation, which we didn't play, that the kind of polls and stuff that they're seeing today and the conversations people are having with them today are normally the conversations you hear for a recently rejected government 18 months to 2 years in, and they're getting it 6 months in. So he says there's a really interesting feeling about what's going on at the moment. But you want to have a crack at that before we move on? Up to you, sir.
Yeah, I want to say what a great communicator Kieran was in that. Just relaxed across his portfolio, across the issues. Just he looked like he was doing it easy. So yeah, well done. Yeah, look, when it comes to Chhour sitting on a huge ton of assets and a lot of it now empty ground that houses were going to go into. What my concern is now, the will turn around and go, well, why is Kaingaroa sitting on all of this empty property that could be sold for less than what Kaingaroa paid for it to landlords, to developers that will put a 4-bedroom house on it because that's where they get the most profit, and it won't be something that solves the housing crisis that we still have in New Zealand, even with Labour's 13 houses a day, which is phenomenal. We still have people sleeping on the streets. We still have people sleeping in parks and tents. We still have people sleeping in cars.
Imagine what it would be though if we didn't have 13 houses a day going in under Labour. Yeah. What would we be looking at today?
I mean, again, everybody seems to forget that fucking COVID screwed everything for years. Kieran talked about Kaingaroa being sprung up in 2018. 2 years later, the entire world shits the bed. And they're still building houses.
Yeah.
You know, it's just remarkable how short people's memories are. That they built those, like if he's talking about the average of 13 houses a day, and there was basically a year there where nothing happened.
Yeah. All right.
We won't say it. Like I think if you look at it and you go, would you prefer a government that builds houses or one that doesn't? Considering how much of this country grew up on, in, or near a state house.
Yeah.
That was the last big housing project that got done. And that was Labour as well.
Do you want to have a look at the chats that are coming in? You can do the super chats. I'm just going to have a quick mention of this because I've just realised, having a look at the people who have already purchased tonight, I realise, lucky punters, that I haven't changed the. We normally charge more for the postage for our merch. So that means as of right now, the postage on the website is half price. So I didn't do that on purpose, but obviously I'm in the middle of a live show, so I can't do much about it. So I guess and this is not a setup, I just noticed. I guess what I'm being honest with you about is if you guys get to bhnshop.nz and you buy something before basically the end of the show, it looks like unofficially there's half price postage. I'm just being nice and telling you what's going on. Remember, 25% of all buffer gear goes to the Rainbow Storytime. So thanks to Olivia, Karen, Mike, Dave, citizens in there as well, some others who have already purchased. But there you go. You've got an opportunity to take advantage of us and support Rainbow Storytime at the same time. Chhour, sorry, up to you, sir.
I'm just going to let people know a little bit behind the curtain here. Pat's being very generous, but what's going to happen is after the show, he's going to beat with a rubber hose our intern.
Yep. She's not here, actually. She's not on her little cushion down there. She's upstairs.
Have you made Nala the intern? And I'm saying that you're going to beat her with a rubber hose. Yeah. I take it back. Yeah. It's all lies. Okay. I did it for jokes.
All right.
Anyway, super chats. Mr. Arvids with a $5 super chat. Labour did drop the ball when it came to the election. They played the lesser of two evils cards too much. Earn people's votes. Do more. Yes, a big part of that is tell people what you've done.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the first time we've heard, with it, I remember hearing 13 houses a day.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Mr. Harford, with a very loose wallet tonight, $5 super chat. Politicians need to grow some balls and spend on infrastructure benefiting everyone. Fuck the ratepayers groups. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Anna Houston with a late fee.
And we always got to tip. We have to tip the hat to Kooky Nick every time we see that.
Yep, absolutely. Peter with the $2 super chat. A raindrop wouldn't take responsibility for the flood.
Fair enough.
Tafari with $2 super chat. That's why Luxon is bald. He just keeps cutting.
That's funny.
And I don't know what this is in reference to, honestly. Damn it, Chhour, I was having dinner.
Are you being gentle, or you're not aware? You mentioned something about your canine earlier on.
I don't recall.
Don't you remember that? Okay.
No, I have no recollection of this.
Okay.
And Tafari again with the super chat. Did you know that Elon Musk is an anagram for lone scum?
Makes sense then. Makes sense. Is that it?
That's all the super chats.
I thought there was another one, which was a something top up, a post top up. No?
Have I missed one?
No? You've done that
Ah,
earlier?
there you go. Citizen Gold.
That one?
Postage top up. $5. There you go.
Thank you for that. You don't need to do that. It's okay that it's half price, so it might give people a chance to purchase it before the end of the show. Okay, let's jump straight into the next story. And the next story is going to be, it's mostly going to be on the vibe that was coming out of the media about the National Party conference was, oh yeah, bit boring, didn't have the same energy. You know, perhaps they're in government now, so they got their main job done. But as you can see, if you're watching us, this video is nearly 4 minutes long, and the first 45 seconds we're talking about the conference, and the next 3 minutes we're talking about Karen Chhour. So Karen Chhour is still high in the headlines. Let's have a look to see what was mentioned on the news, and then I want to show you what the ACT Party has been saying about how they treat women over the last 12 months.
But many national ministers are concerned about their colleague, Karen Chhour, who said this week she feels unsafe and bullied at Parliament.
The unfortunate reality is that some women get a really hard time in Parliament, and it's got to stop. It's really not on.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't feel safe coming to work. That's problematic, isn't it, if you're a minister?
It's absolutely atrocious. I think she's a fantastic minister, and I'm doing what I can to support her.
I rang her to say okay.
Yeah. What did she say?
Well, it's been a pretty tough time.
Yeah.
The ACT Party ministers fronting some of the government's most controversial policies.
Obviously, we're making some controversial
It's
changes.
not just the ACT Party, it is actually Karen Chhour. Like, not trying to minimise her, like she's not strong enough to do it, but she has really thrown in the deep end, having to take some responsibility for some of the things that many consider the ugliest things that ACT's doing, like 7AA, for example. So, you know, it's not just kind of, the controversial bills. It's like at least one of the most controversial bills, and she's got to kind of bear that on her shoulders and the flack she gets back for it.
Changes around Section 7AA, and she's making some controversial changes to Oranga Tamariki. But
well, again, see, do you want to throw her under the bus? She's making some controversial changes to Oranga Tamariki. She is, or the government is. Even that wording, like, is that important? Actually, to be honest, is that important? That Bishop just said this is her. She's doing it. Isn't that kind of the problem here?
Government's most controversial policies.
Obviously, we're making some controversial changes around Section 7AA, and she's making some controversial changes to Oranga Tamariki. But I just hope the debate focuses on policies rather than personalities.
Te Pāti Māori believe the moves will seriously harm Māori and have called Karen Chhour a puppet and referenced her upbringing in state care, leading to her making complaints.
So do you have concerns for the well-being of the Children's Minister, Karen Chhour?
Yeah, look, I just want to acknowledge it is a very robust environment in Parliament, and we should be able to discuss big issues very robustly. It's also important that there is respect and care that takes place as well.
It's clear that she feels unsafe at Parliament at the moment. I mean, you've got a duty of care as Prime Minister. Should she be coming to Parliament?
My office has reached out to her and the ACT Party and making sure she's got the support that she needs.
The Prime Minister leaving it to his coalition partner to look after his minister.
So that's the basic conversation, but this is one of the things I wanted to show. This actually came up in the chat last week when we were talking about this, and I went and found it because I think it's important for us to mention. Because look, I'll ask you outright, Chewy, do you agree we should clean up the toxic workspace that is Parliament?
100%.
100% as well. Everyone watching, 100%. We agree. What we want them to do is to be honest about it, though. David Seymour promises to improve ACT culture as more concerns are raised. Tova O'Brien on June the 10th, 2024. It's not that long ago. I'm not going to read it all, but I'll give you a couple of snippets from it. This is David Seymour also questioned whether the allegations raised by several sources close to the party were true. Quote, I suspect that those reports are possibly not accurate. Further sources have since come forward echoing some of the concerns raised, including what they saw as egotistical and catty behaviour on parts of the campaign and a culture of exclusion. And if you weren't in Seymour's inner circle. Seymour was dismissive of the new concerns. Quote, I just think a lot of speculation has been given far too much airtime, frankly, end quote. Seymour told Stuff after the ACT Party's annual rally for supporters. Stuff has been reporting that some volunteers and candidates on the last election felt used. They said they were regularly left in tears and felt a culture of fear took over their campaign when problems started arising with candidates. Stuff was also leaked a recording from an ACT Party committee meeting held in Auckland in March, in which two respected volunteers quit and expressed no confidence in the board and raised concerns about the party's treatment of women. Asked to respond to the resignation, Seymour replied that those former volunteers were giving some of the loudest cheers in the front row of the rally, and he was happy to deal with anyone having issues in the party. I'm always open to talking to people and working through problems. We're committed to improving our culture. I'm very proud of the party that I've led. I actually think it has become, on balance, a good place for women. Asked if it was concerning that some women felt that they were treated unfairly on the campaign, Seymour handed over to the party's 3 senior women MPs. And you'll notice in the photo, one of those 3 would be Karen Chhour, which is what someone in the chat said last week, that she was standing behind him when they were having this conversation, which sparked me to have a look at this. And the last paragraph I'll read was, of course, from Brooke Van Velden, who in a very sort of wasp way said, ACT Deputy Leader Brooke Van Velden said, no way. It's impossible to say that ACT has a problem with women when it elected a 27-year-old young Liberal woman deputy leader. Now, I just wanted to bring...
that's bad.
I wanted to bring the full story to this Karen Chhour toxic workplace thing, because I don't recall, and I've had a bit of a look around, a heck of a lot of support coming from that side of the aisle when people like Kerry Allen, Marama, Jacinda, these people were mentioning it and talking about it last year. In fact, what I think I remember doing is having interviews with people, I don't know if it was exactly Brooke Van Velden, but in that side of the politics, going, oh no, I find it quite fine around Parliament. I find there's no problems at all. And then all of a sudden, when it's one of yours, all of a sudden there's a great deal of concern. Now, this is not a way to attack the victim. We've said it very clearly that this is not appropriate, should not be happening to the victim and for ACT, to Karen Chhour. But it is, if we're going to have this conversation, let's at least start with a fucking honest beginning, shall we? Chewy.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to comment on Luxon's piss weak fucking tea comment about how Parliament's there for robust debate. Absolutely. What do you believe is robust debate? Like, what's robust? What's too robust for Parliament?
Yeah.
You know, and he mentioned robust twice before he mentioned respect. Like, it's just, he's a shitty leader. It's just so weak. And Seymour, again, in that story that you just read, you are the leader, my dude.
Yeah.
You don't need to go, oh, there's a tricky question. Here's 3 women I've found to answer it.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
the leader. Answer it. And then Brooke's answer, I'm here so there's nothing wrong, is the weakest of the weak comments. Racism doesn't exist because there's a brown person here. This person made it. That's all good. Women
I'm not homophobic. There's a gay person in the bridge club I go to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Anyway, full perspective.
I mean, I'll also just one thing here.
Yeah.
Karen also isn't necessarily commenting about a treatment from her own party.
Not necessarily, but do you notice she didn't actually say who it was?
Yeah, her complaint, the thing that she wanted an apology for was for comments that came from Te Pāti Māori, is my understanding.
Yeah, I look, there's 2 things. Sorry, dude, not to interrupt, but you're right. There was a complaint that was made, but when she was asked, I think on Tova's podcast about the people, she said, I'm not going to speak to who it is, but they now know. Now, if it's only Te Pāti Māori, then fair enough. You're right, that was publicised, but it doesn't mean that's all.
Yeah. And that can be part of the problem too. Like, if you're up there fronting and you're getting that sort of pushback and you don't feel like someone has your back, that is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't feel supported, you think you're fighting that, or that's what her party should be doing, is making sure that she's okay. And maybe this whole thing of like, well, if she can't handle that, what's she doing here? We're not going out of our way. You know, that could be what she's talking about as well. Yeah. We'll never know. Like, people have commented that she's off sick at the moment. I don't blame her.
Yeah, fair enough too.
To be fair.
It's funny, how we're like, and I'm not saying but we're empathetic when she is finding it tough and needs a mental health day, if that's what it is. I do remember the right not being quite so positive about the left, women in particular, needing some space and time. They would pretty much jump down their throat about it. They're being snowflakes. It's all okay. We should come back. Anyway, hey, look, Kiwi Skirts also mentioned that we missed, is it Port Ava? Port Ava's super chat. So I found it, and it says that. Port Ava, Chewy Pasteur, Prince Chewy Teka.
I'm writing them down. They're too good.
Chusis Christ.
Chusis Christ. That'll get me in trouble, but sure.
I'm praying to Chusis. So, are there people giving you ideas for your name each night on the show? Is it? That's what it is? And people will know they've won it if they see it.
I've got a list going.
All right. Hey, the next story we're going to talk about, one of them's an appropriate big story. One of them shouldn't be a story at all, but two of the biggest news stories of the weekend in the world were both had an element to or completely based in dis and misinformation. We're not going to talk about the first one because it deserves to be the biggest story because young children were stabbed in the UK. It is absolutely warranting massive worldwide news. The dis and misinformation is the protests in the street from a certain sector of the UK about taking our streets back, etc., were based around the disinformation that the offender was said to be a migrant or an illegal migrant, which is not the case. The person they've arrested, the 17-year-old they've arrested, is not a migrant to the country or an illegal migrant to the country. So there's a huge amount of the heat in that conversation that's come from dis and misinformation. The other one, of course, is the conversation around the Olympic boxing. Imane Khelif and the Olympic boxer. This is a journalist from CBC News, did quite a good summary of it. I actually spoke to him on email today. We're going to try and get him on. We might get him on tomorrow. Not because he's the expert in this, it's that he's been a good source of information. Misinformation persists online after super brief Olympic boxing bout. I'll just read you a couple of paragraphs from, I think it's Brock, isn't it? Brock Wilson. Within hours of her victory, that's Imane Khelif, over Italy's Angela Carini, unfounded claims that Algerian Olympic boxer Imane Khelif is actually a man or biological male swirled online, amplified by the likes of Elon Musk, J.K. Rowling, Logan Paul, and Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, there's some pretty big names there when it comes to a following, you know. It started when the fight stopped after just 46 seconds with a punch to Carini's nose. The extremely brief bout plus Carini's refusal to shake hands with her fellow welterweight afterwards fueled speculation they had not been fairly matched. It was, quote, the purest form of evil, end quote, wrote Logan Paul, a noted and notorious influencer, perhaps best known for tasing dead animals and being temporarily suspended by YouTube after posting video in a forest in Japan near what seemed to be a dead body. Not what seemed to be, which were a dead body. Who seemed to think the Olympics had just showcased a man beating up a woman. Paul has since deleted that post. Neither Khelif nor Lin is there. There's another boxer as well, Taiwan Lin Yu Ting. And funnily enough, there's not much of attack on Lin, not like on Imane. There just doesn't seem to be. It's always kind of a and the other one, and the other one. She's always and the other one. So Khelif nor Lin neither Khelif nor Lin identify as transgender or as having been born with a male body, according to a fact check from GLAAD. There is no indication Khelif has ever identified as transgender or as intersex, nor is there any evidence to support the online speculation that Khelif has experienced different in sex development, DSD, a group of rare conditions that caused women to have XY chromosomes and blood testosterone levels in the male range. The allegations against Khelif were frequently framed as a call to protect the integrity of women's sport and, by extension, the women themselves. But that's an inauthentic argument, according to Michelle Donnelly, an associate professor of sports management and agenda issues research at Brock University. She sees it as an excuse to push a transphobic agenda. It's so obviously not about women's sport at all. It's about really forwarding a trans-exclusionary, transphobic agenda. If people were truly interested in fairness in women's sport, they would be advocating for more media coverage, more resources invested in women's sport, more opportunities. TVNZ, Chhour, actually did a pretty good write-up about it as well. And I'll just read you one part from here, because we're going to talk about the IBA, I think it is in the Russian Federation, that was since banned, right? And they are the people who have said to have done the test where she was banned for gender complications. This is on TVNZ. In 2023, a boxing competition held in Russia and run by the International Boxing Association questioned the gender identity of Khelif and of Taiwan's Lin Yuting, who is also currently competing at the Paris Olympics. The IBA president, Imane Khelif of Russia, was quoted as saying the two athletes had XY chromosomes and thus were subsequently disqualified. Elsewhere, it was stated that the athletes presented with elevated levels of testosterone, although no one tested them for that. The facts are yet to be confirmed, and it's not the role of an international sports organisation to be handing out personal and private information. Upon request from, this is the important bit, upon request from the athletes, so the people in question themselves, upon their request, the IBA refused to provide evidence of the tests undertaken. So they wouldn't even provide the evidence, not breaching confidentiality, to the people themselves. I've got plenty of little things to get around here to do with my Twitter weekend, Chhour, and some other bits and bobs as well. But you have it at first, sir.
It's funny how the IBA, who were the chairperson of the IBA at that point, the main official was Russian. They had a problem with this boxer after she defeated a Russian competitor, and then suddenly, so it's just bullshit. Like, if there's anything that can be said about biology, people want to put everybody in a box. It's funny that, right? It's the same with gender. It's the same. Now we're talking about chromosomes. Now we're talking about, all of these things. People have got to fit in a box. If there's one thing to take away that we're learning is everything's on a spectrum, right? I've seen comments from people there that with the greatest of confidence, men only have testosterone. Women only have estrogen. That's not true. Like, I saw a very funny comment that Joe Rogan often comments that he has testosterone supplements because he has low testosterone.
TRT.
Yeah. By his reckoning, then he's a biological woman.
I think he's a 55-year-old man who's losing testosterone, as we all do. Yeah. So he's taking supplements.
It just happens. Like, and I think if you looked at a baseline level, if there is a baseline level for women's testosterone levels, and you go to a competitive athlete at the Olympics, I guarantee you their testosterone is going to be higher. It's not, they want, these people are complaining. They're complaining that this woman doesn't fit in the woman box.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is, Chhour. And this is the danger with it, because what it is it's telling the world this person doesn't fit our vision of what a woman should be. And what this actually indicates is how women who don't fit that person's stereotype of women are somewhat in danger by these conversations, because what they're saying is if you look a certain way, you're not a woman. Quote, you're not a real woman if you look a certain way.
Doesn't that sound familiar? We've heard these comments before when women don't fit in the nice little neat box that people want to put them in.
Yep.
And it's funny now that the people that are going against trans people, women that are going against trans people, are using this definition that we just want to protect women. But if they go down this track, the allies that they're going to build will try and stuff them back into the boxes that they think they belong in.
Yeah.
And talking from a sporting point of view, if this boxer has elevated testosterone and it gives her some sort of advantage, and as we discussed at the top of the show, sure, she's won some matches. She's also lost a lot of matches. Then the Olympics is a celebration of a range of genetic freakery. If you look at what's his name, Phelps, the American swimmer,
Phelps. Yeah,
Michael Phelps. his body generates less lactic acid in his muscles than anybody else. That's why he's able to swim.
It's a biological anomaly. He has that gives him an advantage. A biological anomaly that gives him an advantage.
His lung capacity is higher than anybody else. His wingspan, the length of his arms is longer than standard. And he has double jointed ankles. The man was made in a lab for swimming. So if you're going to turn around and go, no, your lungs too big. Your muscles are freakish. You can't be good at swimming.
Yeah.
Then what are we doing? I saw a reel the other day of a woman going, I've just realized what an elite female athlete looks like. And then just goes through a slideshow of all the women, like a bunch of the women that are competing at the Olympics. So a top performing gymnast looks like a top performing shot putter or a power lifter or a long distance runner or a boxer. No, they don't fit in your little box. It's the Olympics. Tell Valerie Adams she's not a real woman.
Yeah, God, she's walked past me before, and I've been like, "Holy crap, damn Val, you're a machine."
I would love it. Could you imagine if J.K. Rowling called out Valerie Adams? Valerie Adams would be walking around wearing J.K. Rowling as a fucking hat for months.
Here's another thing that I put on Twitter over the weekend, and Chris has just mentioned it in chat, so we'll put it out there. And one of the giveaways that this is a culture war thing for the right, is that so many people on the right were going on and on and on and on and on about this boxer, and none of them had mentioned the Dutch team having an actual convicted pedo competing, and yet there's not enough talk about it, though he did get booed. But if you have a look at some of the people making the most noise about this, this transgender woman, not that it's the case, very few comments, if anything, from all of these people on an actual danger to children. And that's what it comes back to, being this insidious thing. Okay, give me time for a few things, Chewy. So here's a few things that have come in. Right, so here's one. I had some person coming in with this sort of conversation. You have to do some wicked mental gymnastics to arrive at the conclusion he was a biological woman at birth. For the rest of us who can see with our own eyes a man beating up a woman, it's pretty straightforward. Hope this helps. This is the whole thing, is being, it looks like. So this is what I said. Well, if that's the case, how do you account for her boxing record? If this is, quote, a man beating up a woman, why does she have 9 losses from 52 matches? If this is a man beating up a woman, why is there no fuss made at the last Olympics where she was knocked out before the medal rounds? If this is a man beating up a woman, and in the light of the Italians saying she'd never been hit harder, why are only 6 of her bouts won by knockout? If this is a man beating up a woman, why does it seem that everyone spoken to about her early life says that she was a girl from birth? All seems very convenient that one can say these things. I'm still just looking for the evidence to back up the claim. And actually, truthfully, this is one of the things I am doing. It's like, show us the evidence. Because until you show us the evidence, it's a very strange flip that these conservatives have done. So imagine that Imane Khelif was actually XY. Imagine, got no proof of that, but imagine that she is, like everyone's saying, right? What they're actually saying, remember for the past 10 years, they've all been saying that you can't be born in the wrong body. So if she was XY, but she was born female, then she was born in the wrong body. So actually the conservatives are going against all those things they've been talking about for so long, because if she's chromosomally XY but she's female, then you could argue that those people have all got it wrong. And this, I think, Chewy, is one of the points that I landed on. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. What you're seeing is that, right? It's based on a sector of society that has preached sex as binary, right? So these guys that have preached sex as binary, pardon me, now have to fit this story into that conversation. So they only have 2 options. This is what they've said, and it's also a foundational part of their political beliefs. So when you look, present them, for example, with Swire syndrome, which has women with XY chromosomes, then all they can do is call those women men, as they've backed themselves into a corner to suit a narrative that's now trapped them in a place that if they say anything else, they're hypocrites. Swire syndrome. I'm not actually saying that this athlete has it. I have no clue. But they've backed themselves into a corner that is sex is binary, i.e. there's no other possible outcome. North American Intersex Society or Association, I think I've put it on Twitter feed somewhere, says 1 in 1,666 people born are neither XY or XX. That's about 5 million people on the face of the planet that don't fit into XX female, XY male. So you can't say XY is male. Well, what's XXY? It doesn't fit that way, and you can't argue that way because there are other ones. This is one of my favorites. Whoever this person is, I don't believe they're actually in New Zealand. I believe that they are, from watching their language and verbiage, I believe they're an international, possibly troll, because
probably
you pick up,
stuff.
Well, you pick it up though. You pick up rather than like with a word without an S on the end that should have an S. It's written by an English as a second language person. Been going hard all weekend, putting up links to tell me to go check it out, and you put up a link and that page has disappeared. I wonder why that page has disappeared. Because it's wrong, perhaps? And then just to wrap this all up, my last bit of evidence for this just being an attack, no matter what the facts, are Kyle Rittenhouse, the man who's famous for shooting someone at a Black Lives Matter march. He came out over the weekend and he said he wasn't going to vote for Trump. As soon as he did that, there was a movement to claim that Kyle Rittenhouse was transgender. Like, without word of a lie. That was their attack. Kyle Rittenhouse is transgender. And this is one of the tweets they put out. He's a she after it came out. So it's used as an attack when you don't need evidence. You just say that's what it is. It's like woke. It's like PC. It doesn't fit. Oh, it's transgender. Just to finish up on that, ironically, funny enough, 24 hours, Kyle Rittenhouse came to the light and he's going to vote for Trump again now. So he saw the light and he turned himself all around. So, but Chewy, I think that idea about these guys have backed themselves into a corner, guys and girls, guys being everyone, where they say sex is binary. So they can't actually go outside that. Because if they go outside that, then they're acknowledging, okay, so sex is not binary. That means there is an other. And if there is an other, that means other might mean transgender, might mean whatever it is. So they've done themselves a disservice and now they can't have honest conversations about it. If it was shown to me evidence-wise, as in the research, rather than someone saying what the research said, right? That's all we're getting at the moment. Such and such said, such and such saw the research and said, right? So it's all two-step, it's hearsay. It was in a court of law. Then we can have that conversation. Now, we can have that conversation about XY at the Olympics, XY in women's sport. You can have that conversation, but at the moment, we're not even there. We're nowhere near it. In fact, all we are is a bunch of people going, sex is binary. I can't acknowledge anything else exists. If I do, my whole conversation falls over. Sure.
That happens when you build your argument in a series of boxes.
Yep.
Is the moment something exists outside that box, you're fucked. The other thing of like accusing people, like this guy's changed his mind, that means he's transgender. No, he's still an awful shitty person. Like it doesn't come into his gender. But it's that same thing of like, calling people gay was the worst thing that you could do to people. But they can't do that now because there's tons of gay right-wing people. They're all insane. It's all leopards eating my face. But there are there. Grindr has shown us.
At the Republican convention. Is that where it showed us? Okay.
Yep, every time. Yeah, it's just horrible. Like I hate this for the trans people I follow because this weekend has been tough.
Yeah,
for them. They just want to exist, live their life just the same as trans people always have done. This isn't a new thing. Human biology isn't a binary. It never has been. We're just trying to shake off people's first pass at gender science and stuff like that. It just like I can't imagine. I'm not in that position, but it looks tiring steering on as an interested observer to actually be trans at the moment while this debate is going on.
Yeah,
it is just mind blowing. I've seen people I follow withdraw from social media for a bit because it's just too much.
Yep.
And as I said at the top of the show, for this boxer that's concerned, it's illegal to be trans in Algeria.
Yeah.
Like, this is putting her at risk.
I really hope someone has a crack legally against people like J.K. Rowling. I really honestly hope that someone does. I mean, what if and I've got to say if because I don't know, but I get the sense it is, if it is proven, if it is actually that this person is not transgender, is not quote unquote a man, then fucking those people are up for a libel suit, mate, or a defamation suit. I just really hope someone has a go at it. It will be brilliant.
Oh, Pat, while you've got Twitter open, did you see that Winston jumped on this with all the grace and tact of an elderly fuckwit?
Yeah, I've also seen people saying that Winston Peters also owes them an apology. I was going to bring that up, but first of all, someone just brought my attention to this. We passed 9,000 over the weekend.
9,000
subscribers.
Will we get to
nice.
10? 10.
Well, at one stage we were going at 1,000 a month, and we were going to be like, oh, let's try and get to 10 before the end of July, which obviously we didn't do. Maybe if you're watching now, or listening now, or whatever you're doing, and you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, it might be a good day to get it. What are we now? The beginning of August. Yes, it's slowed. It used to be 1,000 a month for a period. Now it's gone down to about like 400 to 500. So it might be 2 months. We could put it out there. Could we get there by the end of August? Probably not. But if you're someone who watches and you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Use this as an opportunity. Thanks, guys. I didn't realize that. So there you go. All right. We're going to wrap up, but I'm going to leave you with something you're going to enjoy. We heard your meetup conversations around leaving with something fun. So let's do this. Pete Davidson, American comedian from Saturday Night Live, retells a story of how stupid Donald Trump is. That's not fair. Just how he can't read. I mean, it's unfair to me because there are lots of people who are smart and dyslexic who can't read. Anyway, have a listen to Pete Davidson's story.
Donald Trump. You were telling me.
I have one story I'm allowed to tell, and it's hilarious.
Do you have stories you're not allowed to tell? What happened with the Trump story?
Okay, so he's like, he doesn't really know how to read.
For real.
Yeah, and he loves to improv.
Yeah.
So during like the table read, he like...
There's a fantastic story. I'll just say this, Chewy. Listen out for the turkey leg story. It's brilliant.
Before, like, we were going to before he had to read each line, and he's the host, so he's at everything.
Yeah.
He would go, I'm not going to say this. I think I'm going to say it the way I want to say it. Is that okay? Is that okay, Lauren? Is that everything? And everybody's like, what? And then this is my favorite part, is there was a sketch that we wrote where he's at Disneyland with his daughter, and the line is, all right, let's get out of here. Turkey legs? Like, let's go get turkey legs. And he doesn't know how to read. So he went, all right, let's get out of here, turkey legs. He called his daughter turkey legs.
Maybe that was his improv.
Oh, no, it wasn't. And then he looked up, like, he doesn't get it. Like, he thinks if everybody's laughing with him, but we're all laughing at him. And it was, like, crazy. He would be like, I did a good job, right? And we're like, yeah.
Did he need reassurance, a lot of reassurance, or was he pretty confident?
He constantly kept saying how amazing the ratings were going to be.
And they were.
He's like, this is going to be number one.
He was right.
So there's a lighthearted bit, but there's a bit that goes with this as well, because this is not actually new news, but I thought it would make a nice little example as well. So it was found that Trump speaks at a 4th grade level, lowest of the last 15 US presidents. President Donald Trump, who boasted over the weekend that his success in life was a result of being really, really smart, communicates at the lowest grade level of the last 15 presidents, according to a new analysis of the speech patterns of presidents going back to Herbert Hoover. Now, 4th grade in America is year 5 here because they have kindergarten. So it's a 10-year-old. So he speaks like a 10-year-old according to official analysis, which would make sense if you can't read, because a lot of us increase our vocabulary through reading. Oh, did you want to have a look? Sorry, I should, I'll get them out there.
That's what I'm doing this. What have we got? Where's Bush? Oh, Bush. So I saw a clip that was like, back to simpler times of George Bush, and people going, well, this guy speaks like a moron, because he'd quite often jumble up his words, right? And I saw a clip of him warning of the dangers of the isms of isolationism, protectionism, and I forgot the other one. But it was just like, oh my God, just, we used to make fun of this guy, and here he is sounding like an Oxford scholar compared to Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I also have something to leave the show with that brought me joy this weekend. And this is looping back to the riots that are happening in the US, in the UK.
A nice cherry topic to finish off with.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah, but it very much is a palate cleanser. So I'm going to play this.
It's not going to be a guy.
Times.
It's not going to be a guy hitting the dick with a brick, is it? Did you see that one? That was pretty.
Absolutely, it is that clip.
Oh, okay.
It is that clip.
Shut up. Sorry, the dancing guy. Full screen.
There we go. So you got a line of riot cops with shields. You got a bunch of people that look like ham that's been left out in the sun throwing bricks at them. What a perfect time to show off in front of your mates. And it all goes right for this guy. Watch for the guy coming in from the right in the grey tracksuit.
And you got to watch the first hit as well. It's a hit in the head. Boof, there goes the head, and
3's the magic number. There we go. Walk it off, buddy. Walk it off.
I had that last week, and I thought about showing it as well, Chewy, but to be honest, do you want to mute it? Keep playing if you want, but mute it. I thought about showing it, but the actual hit in the head's pretty serious. Hit in the head with a brick.
It's a bad day. Don't get me wrong. But this guy could have decided to not be a racist twat and stay home in his lovely, lovely tracksuit. Yeah. And he wouldn't have got hit by 3 bricks.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't get hit with 3. I saw the one in the head and one of the dick.
Oh, see, now I'm going to have to play it again.
Okay, where's the third? Where's the third one?
Here we go.
One in the head.
He gets hit with 2.
Oh, no, I saw it in the front as well.
That?
It's like one in the chin, one
front
in the back.
as
Oh my God.
Like 1, 2.
Oh, okay. I saw another one of these today, actually, about people protesting again, and a girl got hit in the head, like a protester with a rubber tire in her. Man, she was out like that. She was out so quick. I mean, he might be a prat and he might be a dick, but he's someone's racist old granddad and stuff. I don't want to see him have to die from a brick in the head.
I mean, look, any day you get hit with 2 bricks almost at the same time, that's a bad day. When it's followed up with a lot of comedic timing by a third one in the nudges, like, that destroyed his spuds. Like, absolutely mashed spuds there.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap up. QB correspondent has sent us $1. Sent us $1. There you go. Thank you for that. Mr. Arvids talks about from the newsroom website, Young Act sexual abuse allegations in the 2020. And QB correspondent has also said lactic acid is false. Maybe as point is false. It's lactic and it is fuel for muscles and not a disadvantage. You know that subpar man athletes can lose to great women. I think depending on what kind of great you mean, don't have to be subpar. I mean, we all know that the evidence is out there that what's her name? The greatest female tennis player of all times. She'll beat other professional males. One of the Williams sisters. Venus or sister? Yep. I'm not saying she doesn't beat the number 1 man in the world, but she would beat some level. It might be down in the hundreds of male athletes. They don't have to be subpar. So
I mean, the Venus sisters are a great example, right? They were often criticised for how they look because they're elite athletes that train all the time. They've got broad shoulders. They've got very, they're powerful looking people, and people go, "Oh, they don't look like a woman." And it always seems to be a certain type of woman that gets criticized. Like, Pat, bring up a picture of Lisa Carrington.
Oh my gosh. Her arms, man, are amazing. The pocket rocket.
We were talking about this at my work the other day.
Look at
Like
her
the
arms.
one, she is packing anti-aircraft artillery there. Look at the guns on her.
Amazing,
and that is what you get when you're a really dedicated athlete, and that's what you do.
Look at the muscle across
Enormous
the chest.
upper body definition.
Man, it's amazing. Oh, sorry. Well, let's not do this because we'll get certainly stripped of any Olympics games.
But yeah, people would look at that, especially when she's in training and she's got very clearly defined pectoral muscles. She's got these huge fucking cannons ready, and they go, "Oh, doesn't look like a woman."
Well, the difference though is how she does look. Long hair, you know, she can present. And can I say this as well? If you want a good commentary on this, go check out Emma Vigland on the Vanguard. The one thing that they also often talk about, because they're, you know, she'll cut to the depth. She'll go, and a white woman as well. It's a big difference. If you're a white woman, it's very easy to be the definition of woman. I mean, all the Hollywood starlets for the last 100 years, you know, the elevated number of white women versus anybody else. And Lisa's a white woman, so and she's got a very pretty petite face, and she's got really big across here, but she's still quite small and stuff. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm just saying I think we should be careful as well of not going every muscular woman with their bill being accused of being a man. It's like there are some parameters which they fall into. Algerian woman doesn't fit the stereotypes of beauty according to some. Easier target to come out at, you know. It's just gross. It's just all gross. Transphobia is inherently misogynistic. It just means it's just means of upholding a gender binary that has existed historically to subjugate women. Yep, 100%. 100%. If you don't look the right way, if you don't act the right way, if we don't think you are, then you're not. You're lesser. That's what they're saying. You think about some of the societies in our lives, through wars, through subjugation, when you've been considered lesser, that's a way to put you into your pocket and keep you oppressed. You're lesser than. If you don't rise to our standard of what it means to look and act like a woman, then you're lesser. Yeah, and we'll use that to our advantage and to disadvantage you.
Trans people have existed probably since day dot. You know, there's as long as we've had clothes and you could present as a certain gender, there have always been people that have taken that option. This isn't a new thing, and this is what I think people do when society's at a place where people can feel that they can be honest about it.
Yeah.
And that they can come out and they say, hey, I'm actually one of these things. It happened with gay people and the queer community as a whole. You know, it happened all the way through time. You know, people think that there's been this huge spike in autism. No, we can just look at it. Oh, everybody's getting diagnosed with ADHD. No, we just know what it is now. It's just, you know, in the 60s, you were rambunctious and liked fire. You know, it's just people feel confronted by it. They shouldn't be. It doesn't change how they live their lives. Just let people be.
I just want to bring one thing forward. I'm on scienceabc.com. Michael Phelps' height, wingspan, large hands and feet give him an advantage in swimming. His body also produces less lactic acid than his rivals, which shortens his recovery time. However, his success is also due to his dedication and hard work. So producing less lactic acid is an advantage. Maybe not in the water, but it's like, that's what people think. You inject yourself with steroids, you get big muscles. Inject yourself with steroids, it decreases your recovery time so you can train harder. Obviously, lactic acid, having less lactic acid enables your recovery time to be shorter, which means you can train harder. So it's like a natural, whatever that word I just said was, steroid. So it is an advantage. Well, according to Science ABC, it's an advantage. Ian says Samoa has male, female, Fa'afafine, and Fa'afafatama. I've never heard Fa'afafatama before.
It's funny. There's a bunch of cultures around the world, including Māori. You know, all had like a third gender. or more. Like it's understood, and it's funny that it's been colonized to fuck. The Europeans turned up and went, no, you don't have that. You were wrong. God says there's only 2.
All right, team. Hey, thanks for tonight's show. Been a good one. Look at that, spot on. I thought we might go to like 11 o'clock tonight with all these topics, but we made it. Now remember, if you have any interest in getting some merch, I will, when I finish in the studio, and normally that's about midnight, I will change to the correct postage. So basically for the next hour and a half or so, you can get half the postage on any of the gear. Remember the buffer gear, we're giving a percentage of the profits to Rainbow Storytime. Look, if you want to just support them directly, then just go do it. Or like if you've got $20 and you want to give it to them, just go and give it to them. Go look up Give a Little and let the story be told is where you find them. If you have trouble finding them, then just go to bhnshop.nz and up the top there, we've got the actual their site as well. So if you haven't got enough for a hoodie or something or a t-shirt and you still want to support their cause, then just go straight to their Give a Little page and give them something there. So if you want to do all of us, then do all of us. That would be fine. And also let me say one thing as well. I've realized I have mixed down the new trailer. Oh, we haven't even talked about the theme tune, Chhour. We'll have to do that tomorrow night. Yep. I haven't changed it yet, people, because you are going to have your input, but it'll be something for tomorrow night. We'll start off with. Tonight was too much information. And I do want to apologize that I did mix down the new patrons into the thing, but when I exported it, it corrupted. So this is last week's finished one. So if you became a patron in the last 7 or 8 days, you won't see your name in this, but you'll definitely see it in tomorrow, and you'll get a shout out personally because we're sorry about it not being in tonight's one. Anything else you want to say before we're heading off, Joey?
Continue to be nice to each other until further instructions.
Yes, must be. It's the law.
And Chhour, big up news, big hairy style, keeping it loose. New Zealand, where the politics play, they bring the truth every single day. Talking about the mess all over the land. They shine a light with a mic in their hand. No time for cheese, just facts straight up. Bad and Chhour, never backing up. From the Cape to Bluff, no place too far. They expose the truth and raise the bar. Politicians tremble at their mighty voice. Pat and Chhour, they'll make the right choice.
All right, team, thanks for being with us tonight. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. I think we've got Craig Rennie coming to join us on Thursday night. Just a bit of a heads up for that. And, of course, apologies again. The 2 or 3 people who joined up last week as patrons, your name is not in this. I acknowledge that. It was my fault. The file corrupted and it was too late to redo it. It will definitely be there tomorrow night. And remember, join us tomorrow if you want to have your say in what the new theme tune is going to be. That's it for me, Chhour team. Chewie.
Cheers, fam.